Continuing with the ongoing research in today's video, I want to approach some of the latter articles that we had in 2021 relating to NASA hiring theologians to assess the impact of scientific discoveries of extraterrestrial life beyond Earth. Now, I've gone into the theme and into the research of alien life and extraterrestrials in this channel. It's something that I've not done fully because I've been hesitant about it, but it seems that at this point something is going on and the mainstream is catching up to it. So I'm gonna start making these type of videos because as I said, a lot of people don't understand what I'm talking about. In my previous video when I spoke about prayer and healing, it's not about how a lot of people telling me about God and all these things. I'm not speaking about this. I'm speaking about the research. I am speaking about actual empirical data that we are gathering, and it ties into consciousness. All the reports that I've seen, all the literature, at the end of the day, at the beginning it can be a little bit scary. People don't understand what really the UFO phenomena is. A lot of people take it very negatively and they just scrape the surface of the research because it is, a lot of people are afraid. And this is why also this is news, because people do not know what to make of it. What would they make of finding extraterrestrial life according to their current worldview? But as I go further into this video, it's all related to consciousness. Some of the reports of people who supposedly have this contact, some of the research that has been done in the UFO phenomenon, are saying the same thing, that near-death experiences are putting out forward, and some of the other altered state of consciousness are putting out forward is the same message. In fact, in some near-death experiences, a lot of people who are experiencing this bring in the alien phenomenon. And what is alien really? If we think of it, if we think of other humanoid forms in the universe, in what later in the article, one of the persons involved with the recent news, he says, science is finding out that there are all these cradles for life across the universe, all these planets which are very similar to Earth. So finding these other humanoids would be something very interesting in there. But as I said, it's all about consciousness, and the ultimate message that these quote-unquote ETs have to share with us is not what some of the other people are sharing. We are all part of the same plan, the same source, the same consciousness. But in any case, all of this is nonsense, and all of this is just speculation unless we go into the actual research and we start stacking the report. So in this video I'm gonna go into some of these articles, what they entail, what they are trying to do, what's going on, and I go a little bit further into the actual literature that I've done into this topic. The question is NASA preparing the world populations for disclosure? And what could be something that these quote-unquote aliens want from us? Before I move forward, I would like to remind you that if you want to join the growing discussion on consciousness and would like to be notified on the latest scientific discoveries and theories surrounding this topic and how they connect to ancient mythologies and philosophies, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, as I'll try to upload at least one video per week as I continue with the outline. Alright, so last month I saw a lot of articles pertaining to the idea that NASA was hiring or seeking help from theologians to understand how humans would react to the idea of extraterrestrial life, which I found very interesting, and I went a little bit deeper into these ideas because as I said, I've gone through this research for a while, the research of consciousness, that is, which ties into religions and ancient philosophies and modern research and neurobiology and all these things, and quantum physics and so on and so forth. So I've been kind of covering a little bit, and I've been digging into the ancient philosophies and whatnot. And as I've said in a couple of videos that I've made, it's almost impossible to go deep into it and do not find the extraterrestrial phenomenon. You always will find it. So I found it interesting that this month, on December 27, 2021, there was a lot of these articles regarding how NASA is seeking help from theologians. This comes after a year, 2021, where there was a bit of news on disclosure on how some government institutions were accepting the idea that UFOs are a real phenomena, or UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena. They're a real thing. Now, this is sort of more in the official sense, but there's a lot of literature on ufology and on what's going on, and there have been new findings that are very, very interesting. Now that we have the ability to share all of these, to find the reports online, to do a little bit of more structured research, and there are some researchers who are doing this at this moment, at this very present moment. There are a lot of books that are coming out, so I found this very, very interesting, because the way that these tabloids usually put it forward, it seems like they are quote-unquote preparing us for disclosure by hiring these theologians to sort of give some ideas on how people would react, but it's a little bit different from what the tabloids are actually putting forward. So NASA seeks help from theologians to understand how humans will react to life between Earth and beyond. Says, between heaven and earth, where does extraterrestrial life fits in? This is a question NASA has been hoping to be answered by theologians. As indicated by in a New York Post report, the space agency is hoping theologians, specifically at the Center for Theological Inquiry, this is the actual thing that is going on. It's not NASA hiring people. They actually gave a grant of $1 million, and it was in 2014, 2015, something like that. This Center for Theological Inquiry has the answer to the question in a recent initiative to understand how humans are going to react to reports that intelligent life, quote unquote, important, just intelligent life, in some other places mentions the idea of microbial life, and there were a little bit of news about that they found some microbial life in different planets, but intelligent life, the intelligence behind life, that is what the whole issue is about. Okay, reported by the Times, United Kingdom last week, Reverend Dr. Andrew Davison, this is the main person that we're going to be speaking about, and this is why this whole thing blew up a little bit. He basically made a post and made some announcements on some of his work, and then they said that NASA is hiring theologians, which is not the case. A University of Cambridge religious scholar who holds a doctorate in biochemistry at Oxford is one of the 24 theologians enlisted to take part in the project. Not quite, but somehow. Okay, a joint spiritual exploration between CTA and NASA. The Theologians' upcoming book, dubbed astrobiology, this is an important term because sounds very sciencey, but it's basically does life exist outside this planet? This is what astrobiology is. And Christian doctrine, due to come out in 2022, will cover part of his joint spiritual exploration between CTA and NASA, in which his most important question is how theologians would react to the idea of there having been a lot of incarnations of Christ in the universe. Now, this is a bit of a turn of events. Are we talking about aliens or incarnations of Christ? What really are we talking about? I find it funny how they put this out of nowhere in the articles. It's not about that, but yeah, this is something that he's being studying. Now, I made a book called The Ghost of Jesus. This is the first iteration of the owl, and as I said, I was going through all of these ideas and all of this research of the new theories of the holographic universe and quantum physics and so on and so forth, and made a lot of research in ancient occultism and what they are telling us about mentalism and whatnot. And I went through the whole Christian phenomenon. I went through the scriptures and went through all of that. My initial goal was to discredit Christianity and to remove the blindfold of people just going to still believe in these ancient dogmas. But what I found is that Christianity, I'm no apologetic for Christianity. But what I found is that in the scriptures, some of the things mentioned from the figure of Jesus are quite interesting, and they overlap with some of the other ancient philosophies and some of the new theories. Now, when you go deep into studying Christ, and this Reverend Andrew Davison, he says further that his field is quote-unquote Christology, which tries to understand the life of Christ and all the theories and all the phenomenon on Christ, and the idea that there might have been this human who was quote-unquote divine at the same time. So when you go deep into that rabbit hole, you find a lot of literature on Christ that is beyond the scriptures, and you find the Book of Urantia and all these things, and it starts getting very convoluted. Now, at the beginning of my research, I did not want to go into all of that, because for me this was woo, and I've been trying to be very objective with what I'm putting forward. But when I started to draw the line and to get further into this literature was when I found that all of this information of the incarnations and some of the people who are quote-unquote contacting extraterrestrial life comes from quote-unquote channelings, which is people who claim they supposedly had contact with these extraterrestrials or beings from other dimensions, or just download information from somewhere, and I did not believe any of it, and I still am very skeptical of most of it. But where I drew the line was when I started to find a correlation between different channelers, some of the new theories within quantum physics, and within some of the other ideas like the holographic universe and ancient philosophy. So the things that the channelers are saying and the things that the new theories are saying, and some of the ancient philosophies, some of the things written in scriptures, and maybe not even the canonical scriptures, but more like the apocryphal scriptures, the forbidden scriptures, go in hand, and they are speaking about the same thing. This is why I'm taking this somehow seriously, and I'm going further into this. So I'm going to be speaking about this later, but right now I want to keep going with this NASA thing. So back in 2014, NASA awarded 1.1 million grant to CTI to examine the interest of worshippers in openness to scientific quest known as the societal implications of astrobiology research. As I said, I'm going to go real quick to get this astrobiology thing out of the... Okay, what is astrobiology? And this is according to NASA. This is the NASA site. It's pretty simple. This was 2008. Philosophers and ordinary people have pondered of the rise of life on our planet. Creation myths are fundamental to every civilization and culture. Creation myths. So the Christian creation is a myth. Whatever the Popol Vuh in ancient Native American societies is a myth. All of these are myths of creation, the Greek mythology and whatever. Well, are they really? When you go deep into it, they all talk about some sort of big bang going in the universe and then everything was created. But in any case, I'll go into that for later. Okay, and reflect the profound resonance of the question of our origins. However, science cannot as yet offer any complete definition of life. And I've been repeating this. Scientists right now think they know everything. We don't know what consciousness is. We don't understand what life really is. We don't have a complete definition. We simply do not know. And here's NASA acknowledging this. As this tentative expansion of our species into other worlds continues, basic questions remain unanswered about the long-term adaptation of living organisms to other environments. This is more of what happens to people when they live in Mars for a while, where gravity is not the same, and some of these ideas, they're taking a very objective posture on this. But also, NASA current astrobiology program addresses three fundamental questions. How does life begin and evolve? Is there life beyond Earth? This is the important one. Life beyond Earth. And if so, how can we detect it? What is the future of life on Earth and in the universe? So this was 2008. The 1.1 million grant that they speak about here is in 2014. And only in 2021 it was officially acknowledged by some government institutions that UFOs and UAPs and even USOs are a real phenomenon. Okay, studies have found associations between religiosity, spirituality, and belief in extraterrestrial intelligence. Yes, well, when you think about spirituality and extraterrestrial intelligence, all the literature about the channelers and so on and so forth. But it's not only in that. I mean, one of the things that was very hard for me at the beginning was when I was doing research on near-death experiences, which are altered states of consciousness. And also in altered states of consciousness, some of the other altered states of consciousness, like the study of entheogens and DMT reports and all of these, a lot of them contain the idea that somehow extraterrestrials and the afterlife are synonymous, are part of the same thing. It's I hope I have the right way to start going into that, but it's quite complex. But yes, when you start studying it, you see the reports over and over on how all of this starts tying together. Okay, the possibility of detecting extraterrestrial life with support from NASA, with store director of CTI said they had hoped to find serious scholarship being printed in both journals and books to come out on the subject, providing answers to the deep wonder as well the mystery and implication of finding microbial life outside of Earth. I mean, that was a very conservative way to put it forward, but somewhere here, as I said, there was intelligent life. So it's microbial life is intelligent life, of course, but what they ask, so the literature goes into a little bit further, than all of this, of course. As this report said, the Book of Davison has noted the large number of people would depend on their religious traditions for guidance if extraterrestrial creatures were discovered, and what that would mean for the standing and dignity of human life. Standing and dignity of human life. And now here's a picture of what we think are aliens, according to our sci-fi and what not. So this is a very interesting question, standing and dignity of human life. So how would people react to the idea of extraterrestrial life? That they would say, yeah, there's the extraterrestrials. And now a lot of people who believe in Christianity and believe in the dogma and believe in all these things, it's very reductive, of course. A lot of people have strayed away from it. A lot of people just believe blindly in what a pastor somewhere tells them. How would they react to this idea that there's more life somewhere beyond Earth? Even for people who are not religious, this would be an incredible shock. And as with, the previous happenings in our society, any sort of shock in humanity leads to revolt. People were revolting about using a face mask. People were revolting about, the tiniest things. We are living in a very, I would say, delicate time to bring big news like the idea of having extraterrestrial life being confirmed. As I said, this is a very basic approach, and what they want to do is see how Christians would react to this, what that would mean to that, the questions that would pose on their faith, and so on and so forth. That is actually addressed in some of the other articles. Alright, so in order to give a little bit of a conclusion to this whole thing about theologians being quote-unquote hired by NASA, which what happened, as I said, what are the real implications about this? One of the things I want to put out straight away, because I know that a lot of people really don't understand what I'm talking about in this channel, is that I find it very sad that the epitome of theology currently is the Christian dogma. It makes absolute no sense, because the Christian dogma is clearly biased, is clearly inefficient, is clearly not what's going on. And this was what I've been speaking about in this channel, more related to the work of my first book. But in any case, what I really mean about this is there is current research on near-death experiences, on altered states of consciousness, on quantum physics, on all these things that really tell us a picture of what's actually going on. And people still think that not being baptized is somehow a sin and you're going to some sort of a hell. It does not make any sense with the actual information that is presently available to everyone in the world right now. We are living in the age of information. It takes just a little for you to understand what's really going on, and the fact that there are still people who think that if you don't get sprinkled by some water, or your child, your baby is not getting sprinkled by some water from some guy wearing a robe like this, is going to hell, it's atrocious in my eyes, and I find it very sad that the epitome of theology is the Christian dogma. Theology, when you put everything together, could be a huge branch of study, especially if it goes along the current scientific findings and all of the literature in ancient philosophies, not just Christian. I'm talking about Zoroastrianism, I'm talking about occultism, I'm talking about theosophy, I'm talking about all of these occult philosophies and whatnot. The apocryphal, include the apocryphal in everything, and then you'll find something very, very different. But in any case, if we go into the core of why this is important, finding aliens and finding even perhaps a more advanced race of intelligent beings out there, or acknowledging, I shall say, because it's not finding, because there's a lot of reports on it. What would this mean? And this part of the article goes into the program, which started in 2016, aimed to answer questions that have baffled us since the beginning of time, such as what is life? What does it mean to be alive? Where do we draw the line between the human and the alien? So as it was said by this Reverend Davison, he said, we know that such planets are a widespread feature across portions of the universe we have investigated to date, and that means that cradles for life are likely profoundly widespread also, with maybe 10 billion Earth-like planets around sun-like stars in the observable universe. Now, what I find interesting about this is cradles for life. This idea of cradles for life, the concept that our plane, our Earth, is somehow a cradle for life. It's some sort, you can think of it as an experiment. And so in the understanding that finding an alien life form which is more evolved, which understands more of the fundamentals of the universe, and if you go deeper into the literature, there are all these ideas that they might actually have had a part in creating us. Does that mean, and you know, one of the most famous channelers was asked this, because the idea of this famous channeler, which I might go in the future, is that yes, aliens created humans. They modified some of the beings on this earth. They modified their genome, they modified their DNA, and they slowly created humans for a purpose. Now this specific channeler is asked in one of these events, in one of these, because they are trying to share all this information, and they are asked, does that mean that there is no God, quote unquote God? And this channeler says something around the lines of, everything comes from source, even us, and we are all working towards the same goal. It makes no difference if we had part in creating who you are right now, if at the source and at the core we are all the same. So it ties into some of what these other religious people were saying, like somewhere along the lines here it says more brothers to accept or something like that. This idea, this seems to be what's going on. There's you know, it says here like they found these other planets which are like cradles for life, and if we are all evolving, we are in this all these cradles for creation for life. This seems to be a higher mechanism to everything that's been happening. And one of the strongest arguments is when you come into this life, you don't know, you don't control your breathing, you don't control your you did not create your body, you did not create the systems that are in the world that you live, the air that you breathe. Did you create any of that? No, you come into something that is already structured, that already has intelligence behind its creation. We don't know what this intelligence is. We don't know what life is, as it says right here in the what is astrobiology. Science, our science cannot as yet offer any complete definition of what life is. We do not know where we come from. Why do we inhabit these bodies? What are our bodily functions? What is really going on? Now, as science is starting to get closer to finding all of these planets which are habitable, which the concept that they have found life, and even if you go deeper into the literature, former Israeli space chief says US is in contact with quote-unquote Galactic Federation of Aliens, and former president knows there's a little bit of a tabloid-like title here, but if you go deeper into the literature on this, you will find this quote-unquote Galactic Federation, that is this whole concept, this whole idea that there is much more than meets the eye when it comes to creation and what we are and what we're doing. And if you go deeper into the Anunnaki and all of this, I might go into it at some point, but I wanted to focus in the outline, the main religion, which is Christianity. And then on the second part of the outline, I go into Eastern philosophy, and I find all the correlations between the two, which seem opposite at first, but then turns out they are practically the same. They're speaking about the same thing with very different cultural filters. This is something that I speak about in this outline, is the cultural filters. Now, there's a lot of things that I wanted to cover here, and I've been wanting to talk about more about this idea and extraterrestrials, and how the Bible does speak about aliens and whatnot. What are these angels, And in the first book of the outline, the Ghost of Jesus, I include a deep analysis into the quote unquote transfiguration of Jesus Christ, where he turns into light, and when people are dying, when people are telling their experiences, they speak about meeting this light or beings of light, and in the transfiguration of the sudden, they are quote unquote, it is specified that they are quote unquote heavy with sleep, or it is also translated as sleep torpor. And all of these things, where if you go into altered states of consciousness, you find that the sleep cycle is where when people are having dreams, is very related to the brainwave frequency, where people are having this altered state of consciousness experiences. And that's where these two witnesses to Jesus, when he was quote unquote transfigurating, that's how they tell about what was on. They were quote unquote heavy with sleep. Who were the angels who came out of nowhere? In the scriptures, I went through all 4 canonical accounts of it. I speak about it in the book more towards the end of the book, and the resurrection, the quote unquote resurrection, where these quote unquote 2 magnificent angels came from the heavens like thunder. And even this figure of Jesus speaks about beings being like thunder, and there are all of these paranormal little things in the scriptures when you look at them in depth, and then you tie them with some of the other altered states of consciousness, it all starts to make sense. I guess the last thing, because I might go into all of these little by little, there's a lot, they acknowledge that they have been finding a lot of information, changed their lives forever, and if you go into the archives of what they found out when they spoke to these beings, which they recovered debris from some of the crashes and whatnot, there's a lot of literature on this. But one of the things that that I want to end up with in this video is that I know a lot of people are very afraid of what this will entail, or if perhaps these beings could be negative in some way. This is some of the arguments that I made. There are positive humans and negative humans. It's very likely that if we think about quote unquote spirits, or if we think about quote unquote aliens, they're positive and negative. It all seems that the finality, that the ultimate truth is positive. And what's going on is that we are on a path of evolution when we are being aided by, you can call them spirits, you can call them light beings, you can call them aliens. And I spoke about this in a recent video where some of the reports from antigens and ASC of Consciousness, they say that they report these beings who are like sucking things out of them, or people are being operated upon and so on. I'm gonna link them somewhere in the screen or below. I've spoken about this before. But in reality, there are a lot of modern reports and ancient reports and reports that are being studied about these beings healing people. And this is a side that is not very trustworthy, but it just goes on with all the literature that I found about this topic. Recorded healings by aliens. I spoke about this in my previous video. I spoke about prayer, quote unquote prayer, and healing, the effects that it has, and it has to do with consciousness. It has to do with some, not prayer and not religion. A lot of people thought I was speaking about religion. They didn't even go through the content. But and I wanted to go further into this topic of healing. You know, if you think about Jesus, he was known as a healer. So when you go into these recorded healings, you find Preston Dennett, which is an author on this. This is one of the most interesting authors that I've seen, and he's been covering this. So he talks about all these ETs healing humans, and there's a lot of reports. There's also Rainerio Hernandez, I remember now. He is also writing a book. He's been writing some books about this. There's a lot of information coming from this, and you know, these aliens. You see these pictures, and people get scared, like they are different morphologically. But there are a lot of beings that people report in these. In the literature, there are some ETs that are just like humans. There are ETs that are different and they have different morphologies. I spoke about this in that video where I speak about the idea that there are these quote-unquote mantis-like beings which might be helping, but not, instead of hurting people or like operating on them, they might be helping them. So he goes into a little bit of all of this. I would highly encourage you to go into the research of Preston. Then I might speak about all of this in the future, but I'm not quite sure. So if they actually had some influence into maybe creating what we actually are now, they have full understanding on who we are and how to heal us. And this is how they can do it, because they have a full understanding who we are. If we perhaps were created by aliens, which is a theory that I'm going to explore in the future, which at the end, we all come from source, and they come from source, and everything comes from the source, even the trees and the animals and everything. They have the tools to heal us. They have the tools to understand us. They have, if you go into the reports, they have control of time and space. It's not about they being in this, you know, shaped crafts and they're coming. It's these. A lot of people say this is a theater for us to understand, for us to conceptualize these themes. So if you click somewhere along this, as I've said, there's no way to prove this. This is just channelers, this is reports, but the reports are indeed sucking. I don't like how they use sometimes this what could be frightening idea of aliens. As I said, there are some aliens which are portrayed as humanoid beings, others that are more like bug-like beings, others that are just pure beings of light and whatnot. It's different morphologies. So perhaps one of the questions that I will approach in the future is, what do aliens want from us? This would be the question of questions if it is indeed proof that there are other life forms in the universe. You know what the theologians are figuring out the impact of this knowledge. This would be the question that would come out first. What do they want from us? Now, if you go deep into the literature, some speak about creating hybrids. Some speak about, the worst cases would be that they want domination over humankind. They want to enslave us, and a lot of people are gonna believe this just straight out from their sci-fi stories and whatnot. But there are a lot of people who have been, quote unquote, lifelong experiences. Preston Dennett speaks about this. Some of the newer reports. There's a lot of literature on this, as I've been saying, and most of it correlates with what people are being told during their near-death experiences and during their altered state of consciousness experiences. And it is this topic that I've spoken about before, which is a term called mystical psychosis, which is that this is merging with the all. We all come from the same source. So it's in disclosure. We have this word disclosure right now. When is it gonna happen? Are we gonna see them? Is this gonna happen? Are they preparing us? And this is why NASA is hiring theologians. What's going on? They recently, in 2021, so it's 2022 as of the making of this video, they realized, they announced that yes, UFOs are a thing, UAPs are a thing. Disclosure is what's actually happening. Is happening one experience at a time. A lot of people are having these experiences and they are putting it forward. A lot of people feel initial fear from this experience. They don't understand anything that's what's going on. But when you stack all of them, like Preston Dennett is doing, like Renato Hernandez is doing, some of these other scientists are starting to talk about it and start to compare the reports and building statistics and how afraid were you, how do you perceive the interaction, what did they tell you. Things start overlapping, and as I've been saying, as I've been doing this outline, when you find a lot of things that start overlapping to each other, you can find a little bit of truth. So as I said, I might go deeper into all of this. For now, I just wanted to just keep like an overall coverage on this, because it doesn't have to be something negative. A lot of people would look at this into something negative. A lot of people would be afraid. A lot of people would be scared. A lot of people would have no idea where to begin. What is the message that these contact experiencers are receiving overall? What do they want for us? What's their message? Alright, so what do aliens want from us? What's their message? As I've said, the literature is very deep, and there was some variations to this. As I said, this message repeats also in near-death experiences and in some other altered states consciousness experiences, but it's mostly the same. It goes, over a period of years, I've interacted with all of the group of 8, some more than others. This is this person, Kevin Griggs, who has been interacting with these ETs, and their main purpose here is to help us develop, is to help us learn. They want to interact and to share their technologies with us. They realize that we are polluting our planet, we're killing our planet. They have the technologies to help us turn that around and give us technology so it can self-sustain our planet without killing it. They are concerned about us as a species, and they want to assist and help. I'm trying to assist in that with information they've given me. But the main thread of information they have given me, one of consciousness itself. It's about how we share the one consciousness with trees, the plants, the animals, the earth itself, and the other forms, the other life forms within the universe. They taught me how to communicate using consciousness itself, how to travel using consciousness itself, and how to create using consciousness itself. Now, as I've said, a lot of people don't understand what I'm talking about in this channel. This is about the study of consciousness. And when I started finding these archives and these reports and these emails and these documentaries and all of these things talking about the UFO phenomenon, connecting with these ancient philosophies and Anunnaki and all these strange, wild theories, the message was the same. The new theories are saying the same. It's all about consciousness. And the people who go through these entheogen experiences, they say that. They said, I felt like I was one with everything. I met the source. And there is this higher consciousness from all of us who is out there everywhere, is omnipresent, is omnipotent. And they speak about this. A lot of these messages say the same. Say we all share the same consciousness. Even as some of these articles said, more brothers for us, said some of the religious people. I mean, in a sense, it could be, but at the same time, there's something much more complex than the Christian dogma. We are speaking about consciousness, not about a bearded man in the sky. We're speaking about perhaps what could be defined as a quote-unquote field. This is the message that is shared all over the place, and I've spoken about this. When you think about what is the purpose of life, why, what does this mean if we find other life forms? So, and if these planets are cradles of life, what is the purpose then? Well, some of the altered states of consciousness have told us things that could help us find this answer. What is the meaning? Is there a meaning? Do we have evidence of the meaning of life? I've spoken about this. I'm going to link that video somewhere in the screen. When you go to the research, and you're going to need that experience in this quote-unquote live review, what people are being told about what life is, experience how you treat others, because you're learning to be this one consciousness which is everywhere. So in live reviews, people are saying they felt what others felt through their interaction. They go back in time. They see a 360 panoramic view of what they did throughout their whole life, all at the same time, because in this other realm, there is no time. Space and time are relative. And they see everything that they did, and they are learned. This is the whole thing in the literature, that we are learning things. So at the end of the day, it comes to that. And a lot of the reports that I've seen, a lot of these archives from the crashes and from the information that was shared with these recovered ETs that were held, perhaps against their will, I don't know. And the communication was something that, even whoever gets into contact with these beings, what they want at the end of the day is to understand more who we are and what we're doing here, what is life. This is the main question. And all of the reports are pointing towards the same. It's all about consciousness, and we're all part of the same consciousness. Some people call God, some people call universe, some people call whatever. And that's where all of the morality and all of the ideas and everything spans from. What some of these scientists called mystical psychosis, it's all coming together little by little. If you're on the path of finding the truth about reality and our purpose as humans on Earth, the information that I have to share concerns you. After a lifetime of research in philosophies ranging from Buddhism to the occult, I've encountered themes and patterns along some baffling information that is beginning to be seriously studied by science. A Rational Divine Outline, The Ghost of Jesus, is the first iteration of this project, where I analyze the message of Jesus without dogmatism, fanaticism, or religious bias. You can find my work available on Amazon on the link below. If you find this work valuable, consider subscribing, sharing, and following me on social media, as it'll help others in the same path to find this information. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.